Hi, this is Marie of Creations Photography. The other day we talked about making a shape into a circular pattern by applying pivot transformations on it. And it was great fun, but I thought maybe you'd like to see some ideas on how you might actually use such a fun technique. And I've put together a few things that I thought you'd like to see. We'll go over one step by step. This first one is a holiday card. I found kind of a angular shape that, when it was all made up, reminded me of a snowflake. So I put that on with a blend mode, so it would show light in the dark areas and dark in the light areas, and wrote a note so I could print this out and send it to my friends. Another thing I played with was drawing attention to this lighthouse by putting an ornament in the sky. Actually, it's a half an ornament, and I used a layer mask to mask off this bottom part. You could also erase it. Here I've used color. I've used blend modes and strokes to highlight the edges of the picture. There wasn't much going on in them, and I used the colors that were in the picture to try this. As you can see, this is kind of a scrolly pattern. Here's another thing. The top of this light ship is all circles and loops and things like that, so I used a loose spiral pattern, or a loose spiral shape to make this pattern that has the same loops and the swirls, and I think it goes rather well in the sky. And again, I used multiply for my blend mode. Here's another option you might want to try. This time I used a shape that was circles and lines. When I put it together in the circular pattern, it reminded me of fireworks and starbursts and happy stuff. So I used it behind this graduate. And here's an announcement that you can print and send to your friends to show your pride as well as your students' pride in their achievement. Last thing we're going to do is make a baby announcement. Now, I've already started on this one. I have put the baby on its own separate layer. I've increased canvas size, and I did it in 2 steps. The first time I went in image canvas size, and I kept the relative checked and left the baby in the center, and I put in 3 for the width and 3 for the height and said OK. And that gave me 1.5 inches on all sides of the baby pictures. And then I went back in the second time and I anchored the baby at the top of the page and added another 3 inches in height, which gave me all this room at the bottom to write my announcement stuff on. The first thing I want to do is make a background for this baby, and I'm going to put a layer under the baby by holding down my Command or my Control key as I do it. And I'm going to choose 2 colors from the baby's blanket because I want the background to be reminiscent of the blanket, and I'll start with a pink and a blue, and I'll make sure that the pink is the foreground here. I'm going to go to Filter, Render, Clouds, and I'm going to hold down the Option key as I do this because it makes your clouds just a little bit bigger. And there we have some pink and blue clouds. I'm going to add another layer, and this time instead of the pink I want to sample the greens, so when we go back and do our render clouds it'll be pink and green clouds, and again I'm going to hold down the Option key for those bigger clouds. Because the pink doesn't show through, I'm going to have to change the blend mode, and I'm going to try lighten, and I'm going to try multiply and see which one I like the best. I think multiply gets this too dark. Overlay makes it too light, so I'm going to leave it at the lightened. It's about the same shade as the baby, and it still has the blotchy patterns of the pink and the green and the blue in it together. Then I'm going to go to the baby layer, and I'm going to put a stroke around it. So I'll go down to the FX button and hit stroke. And I'm going to pick a color over here in the blue range and say OK. And I'm also going to do a drop shadow. And I'm going to pick the same color for the drop shadow as I picked for the stroke. I don't care for a harsh shadow, so I'm going to increase the spread just a little bit, and then I'm going to increase the size, which will make my shadow much less harsh. And I believe the light is probably coming in from the top of the baby's head, so I'm going to set my angle at 90 degrees. So my shadow kind of matches the light that's already going on in the photograph. Okay, now I want to make my ornament so it's underneath the baby. I want it to be between the baby and the background. So I'll put a layer above this blue and green layer, and I'll change it to multiply. I looked through my shapes and I didn't have anything that I really liked. So I started looking around in my stock photos that come with all the programs that I've got on my computer. And when I typed in baby, one of the things I found were these diaper pins. And I thought, well, you know, diaper pins, you can't get any better than diaper pins for babies, because it's certainly a baby thing, if anything ever was. So what I did is I took a hard edge brush and I painted around the edge of the pin, and I also printed the word baby on it. So I had a shape like this that I made into a custom brush. So we'll go to our brushes and grab that custom brush, and we'll use it here on the baby. I think I want to make this just a little bit smaller, so I'm going to use my left bracket key. Now remember, I'm on this multiply blend mode, and I want it in a blue, so I'm going to make the color that I used for all the rest of it the same color that I'm going to do in here. So when I click on this, we have the blue color. And remember, we used our Option Command T or Alt Control T to make a transformation on the next layer, and we held down our Shift key to constrain the angle. But you know, I forgot something. I forgot to move the pivot point, and you know, that's just the most important part of it. So let's move that pivot point over, then hold down our Shift key and begin our transformation. Now I could leave it here, but I kind of wanted you to know that it was a diaper pin, and I kind of wanted the word baby to show on all of this. So I've got about a 30-degree pivot here. And we just continue with a Shift Option Command T or the Shift Alt Control T until we get around back to the beginning. Now if you're having trouble seeing what you're doing, you can always turn off the visibility on the baby layer. But here we have our pattern, and I want several of these patterns. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the top layer, shift click the bottom layer, and then use the keyboard shortcut Command or Control E to merge all of these into one layer. And when you're using multiple layers, it's best to name them so you can find them later a little easier. So I'll double click on the words and I'll put lower right. Then I'll make a duplicate copy of this and call it upper right. And I will get my move tool and move this to the top. I am going to hold my shift key down so it doesn't go from side to side. As I move it, it'll move straight up. And I'll put it in the same place on the other corner. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll make a copy of this, and this time we'll call it the upper left. Hold my shift key as I move it sideways so it doesn't go from top to bottom, it just goes to the side. And we'll position that to where it looks like it's even with the other one. We'll make one more copy, and we'll call this the lower left. Again, we'll use our shift and move it straight down. Whoops. Copied the wrong one. Well, I move it straight down and then I'll let up on my mouse, then I can move it straight across. So I have it both ways. Now I think this needs a little more, so I'm going to make another copy and I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to make another copy and move it down to here. Guess I didn't make a copy when I moved that. If I stop naming them like I did here, I can always perhaps look at the picture and figure out which one I want. But another trick is if I Command or Control click on the ornament that I want, it'll automatically go to that particular layer. And then I'm going to jiggle this up just a little bit so it matches the top. Make another copy, put it in the middle here, and I'm going to bring this one out just a little bit too. One last copy. Forgot to use the shift to bring that over. Now on this one, you might want to have two along the edges. Depends on the look that you want. I guess maybe two isn't too bad. So we'll go ahead and put two on this one as well. And so you've got nice patterns of diaper pins in a kind of filigree lace pattern around your baby. And then all we need to do is add the text. I'm going to change the color of that just a little bit because last time I must have chosen a slightly different blue. And of course this time it's just going to fight me and not work, so we'll click on this layer and make sure we have our text, and then just select it all and go to the blue color. There, looks much better. Yeah. Thanks. Have a great day.